Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Welcome to the webinar, Fundamentals of Cybersecurity, Risks for Your Business, presented by our own Taylor Kennedy. As you can see his picture here, and then he'll also be on camera when he gets started. Thank you, everybody, for joining. There he is. Hey, Taylor.
Hello.
My name is Allie Stevens. In case you are unfamiliar with us, the SBDC is part of a statewide network, and our mission is to help your small businesses start, grow, and succeed. We do this by offering different training and webinars like this one today, but also by providing no-cost confidential consulting in all aspects of business management, startup, and growth. Topics like a business plan review, marketing strategy, market research, financial analysis, SEO and website stuff, the whole gambit. And we are now offering consulting during non-business hours. So you can set up a meeting with us for 6 a.m. Or 7 p.m. or a Sunday afternoon if it suits you. All of our contact information will be displayed throughout the presentation and in the chat box and in the follow-up email that'll be sent out after the close of the webinar. So if you're interested in following up with the SBDC to either make a no-cost appointment or find more training, you will be able to do so. Quick housekeeping, this session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be sent out to everybody this afternoon along with that, that email I mentioned. And also you will get a survey. Please let us know how you thought it went. It's just a quick, like, 6-question survey. We live and breathe by our feedback and evaluations for training to help us better provide you with training and programs that will help your business. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please ask them by typing them into the questions section of your control panel, and we will address them throughout and also at the very end of the presentation. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Taylor. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie, and good morning, everyone, on this beautiful Friday that we have here. I'm excited to present the fundamentals of cybersecurity and risk for your business. We have a great presentation lined up, and we have a lot of content we're going to cover. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and roll right into it. Just a quick little background about me. I'm our marketing manager and also a senior consultant here at the SBDC, specializing in online presence. As I was going through school, I founded a company called Rent a College Kid, where I focused on small and odd jobs for things that you would need a college kid for. Did so well that my wife actually started a cleaning edition of it, and we were kind of called the dynamic duo, as we would come in and, I would do, small and odd jobs and she would clean. I also managed online presence for a department here on campus called CERT. And within the first 2 months of kind of taking on that role, we increased our following by 50%, and we focused on the website, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So before we get started into the content, I just want to say, or kind of point out, why is cybersecurity important, right? And according to a recent survey from the SBA, 88% of small businesses believe that their business is vulnerable to a cyber attack. 60% of businesses fail within 6 months of a cyber attack. And then on average, a data breach can cost a small business $149,000, which that's a chunk of money, hence why they probably go out of business within 6 months. And then since COVID, cybersecurity threats have increased by 40%. So for today's agenda, we're going to talk about the background of information and cybersecurity. We're going to also talk about understanding and managing risks. We're going to talk about safeguarding your information and then working safely and securely. And then at the very end, we'll talk about how we can help you with your cybersecurity needs. So we're going to be covering this, the Small Business Information Security and Fundamentals from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And this is just kind of a reference and credit page. It was also put together with the Department of Commerce. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about what is information security and cybersecurity. So information security is just the protection of information and information systems from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction in order to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So information security encompasses people, processes, and technology. It concentrates on people, or concentrates on how to protect the confidentiality, which is protecting information from unauthorized access and disclosure. So for example, what would happen if your company or if customer information such as usernames, passwords, or credit card information was stolen? Integrity, which is protecting information from unauthorized modification. So what if your payroll information or product design was changed? And then the availability, so it's preventing disruption in how you gain access or access information. For example, what if you couldn't log into your bank account or access your customers' information, or if your customers couldn't access you? So as more information becomes digitized, and digitally stored, processed, and communicated, cybersecurity has been a key component in information security. Cybersecurity means protecting electronic devices and electronically stored information. So what is cybersecurity? It's the prevention of damage to protection of and restoration of computers, electronic communication systems, electronic communication services, wire communication, and you can see the whole ordeal here. And it's to ensure its availability, integrity, authentication, confidentiality, and non-repudiation. And you can just kind of see here on this next slide that as part of information security, cybersecurity works in conjunction with a variety of other security measures, some of which are shown here. As a whole, these information security components provide defense against a wide range of potential threats to your business's information. So privacy is just protecting that personal information, right? Physical security is the protection of property, so like using fences and locks and things like that. Contingency planning and disaster recovery, so how to resume normal operation after an incident. This is also known as business continuity planning. Operational security, so protecting business plans and processes. And then you also have personal security, which is like using background checks and things like that. Lacking any one of these components diminishes the effectiveness of others. For example, good security measures means little personnel you hire intend to harm your business. So that would be like poor personal security or personnel security. Or strong privacy policy can depend on cybersecurity practices that protect customer information that is electronically stored. So why small business, right? So many businesses in the United States have been putting resources, including people, technology, and budgets, into protecting themselves from information security and cybersecurity threats. As a result, they have become more difficult to target for malicious attacks and hackers for cyber criminals. Consequently, hackers and cyber criminals are now successfully focusing on their unwanted attention on less secure businesses, being small businesses, right? Because small businesses typically don't have the resources to invest in information security the way many larger businesses can. Many cyber criminals view them as soft targets. Your small business may have money or information that can be valuable to a criminal. Your computers may be compromised and used to launch an attack on somebody else, or your business may provide access to high-profile targets through your products, services, and role in the supply chain. It's important to note that criminals aren't always after profit. Some may attack your business out of revenge, so maybe firing someone, or for the thrill of just causing destruction. Similarly, not all events that affect the confidentiality, availability, and integrity of your information are caused by criminals. Environmental events such as fires, floods, can severely damage your computer systems. Unfortunately, in one respect, small businesses often have more to lose than large organizations, simply because in an event, whether a hacker, a natural disaster, or business resource loss, can be extremely costly, as we saw. Small businesses are often less prepared to handle these events than larger businesses. With less complex operational needs, there are many steps a small business may be able to take more easily. It is not possible for any business to be completely secure. Nevertheless, it's possible and reasonable to implement a program that balances the security with the needs of the capabilities of your business. So here's just a few different types of cyber attacks. And a cyber attack is the assault launched by a cyber criminal using one or more computers against a single or multiple computers or network. A cyber attack can maliciously disable computers, steal data, or use breach computers as a launch point for other attacks. And one thing I wanted to point out here, so you've probably seen most of these here, but the one that you may not be familiar with is called a Trojan horse. And it's a type of malicious code or software that can take control of your computer. So now we're going to talk about just understanding and managing risks. So risk is a function of threats, vulnerabilities, and likelihood of an event and the potential impact that such an event would have on a business. Most of us take risk-based decisions every day. For example, driving to work. We assess threats and vulnerabilities such as weather and traffic conditions. The skill of the driver depends on the road, and the safety features are reliable on the vehicle we drive. By understanding your risk, you can know where to focus your efforts. While you can never completely eliminate all risks, the goal of your information security program should be to provide reasonable assurance that you have made information decisions related on the security of your information. In information security, a threat is anything that may adversely affect the information of your business needs to run. These threats might come from in a form of personnel or natural events. They can be accidents or intentional. Some of the most common are the environmental, which is, like we said, is like fires, tornadoes, things like that. Business resources, so equipment failure, and then hostile attackers, so cyber criminals. So when looking at these types of threats, many people do not understand how they relate to information security. It's helpful to consider what would happen in the event of a flood. Computers, servers, and even paper documents can easily be destroyed with just a small amount of water. If it's a large flood, you may not be able to get to your resources to be able to protect them. A vulnerability is a weakness that could be used to harm the business. At any time or situation where information is not being accurately protected presents a vulnerability. Some threats affect businesses and industries differently. For example, an online retailer may be more concerned about the website defacement than a business with little web presence. Likelihood is the chance that a threat will affect your business and help determine what type of protection to put into place. Most businesses have different types of information. If a marketing pamphlet is leaked online, it probably will not harm the business, actually may help them, right? But if sensitive customer information is leaked, it could devastate a business, right? The impact is if an event could have depend on the information affected, the business and the industry itself. So this is just an image here of how the relationship between threats, vulnerabilities, and impact, and the likelihood itself. So you can see we have threats and vulnerabilities at the top, and then they cycle down into the likelihood, right? Like we just discussed on the previous slide. And then that funnels down into the impact. So what potential harm to the business are we looking at? And this gives you your overall risk for that. So there's a little risk management exercise that you can perform. The activity is identifying what information requires the level of protection, and then implementing and monitoring that protection. And this is called risk management. So the process will likely require an input and collaboration of a broad array of personnel in the business to be successful. So kind of getting input from everyone. You should bring together those personnel in your business that can help make these informed decisions. You should review and update your risk management plan at least annually, if not every 6 months. So this is going to be the exercise here that I'm just going to kind of show you some examples here. And back on that first slide with the credit and everything, you can actually download this this documentation, and actually has some worksheets at the end where you can perform this yourself. So for table 1, we want to identify and prioritize information types, right? So for example, customer contact information, right? So what is the confidentiality? And you want to do this on a low, medium, and high scale. And then you go through the integrity and the availability. So you can see with customer contract or contact information, the confidentiality is medium, the integrity is high, the availability is high, what is the cost of loss of work, and then you can see there's some other areas that you fill out as you go through this too. And then at the end, you can see at the bottom there an overall score for this particular information type. So then what you want to do is go into table 2, and this is now the inventory, right? So you want to list out the description of the inventory type, and then you want to put its location, and then the type of information the product comes with in contact with. So for example, Dr. J's or Dr. Smith's, cell phone, and you can see it's on a mobile and their network that they have. And then it comes in contact with the email, calendar, customer contact information, photos, social media, locations. I mean, the list goes on, right? Typically, we work mostly from our phones a lot of times because we're on the go. So what is the overall potential impact for this inventory specifically? And then you go into what's known as table 3, which is identifying the threats, vulnerabilities, and likelihood of an incident. So you can see for Dr. Smith's cell phone here, we have, confidentiality. Okay, so theft by a criminal. So it's medium, it's encrypted, password protected. Accidental disclosure. You can see the phone has been previously lost, so it's a medium, right? And then you go into the integrity and then the availability of it, and then you have your overall likelihood of, the threats and vulnerabilities and likelihood of this particular incident. So with Dr. Smith, hers came out to a priority 3. So pretty much what you do is you take all the different information that you do through those different tables, and you come up with what is the priority of the specific. And it fell into a low likelihood but high impact. So this is an exercise that you can do for your particular information. So sometimes there comes to a point where you think about maybe outsourcing. So no one expert in every business, and there's no one expert in every business and industry. You may need to choose outsource some of your technology and information security needs to companies that provide these services. And a few things that you should do is, one, you should ask for recommendations. And here at the SBDC, we have some referrals that we can provide to you of companies in the local area. You should request a quote. We always recommend at least getting a couple of different quotes if you're looking to outsource anything. So make sure you just have a clear list of actions or outcomes that you want to achieve. Check past performance. There's reviews listed online. You can check with the Better Business Bureau or Federal Trade Commission. You can sometimes even ask for a list of past customers that you could contact and just kind of get their view of it. So some like referrals. Find out how long the company's been in business and have they changed management recently. Then you want to find out who's actually going to be doing the work, right? So you can ask for professional qualifications of the personnel who will be handling the project, including those working directly with you and or on the systems, as well as personnel that will be overseeing the projects. So let me go ahead and just move. So now we're going to talk about safeguarding your information. So how can we do that? And there's a framework that we can use. So you'll start with identifying and then protecting, detecting, responding, and recovering. So identifying. So who has access to the information, right? This is usually a very big piece, to it. And protecting identifying is typically one of the most important phases here. So determine, who has access to the business information and the technology. Do not allow unauthorized persons to have physical access to any of your business computers. This includes cleaning crews and personnel, so making sure that we're locking the computer correct. And if unrecognized people are walking into the office, they should not be able to walk in without being questioned of who they are. If a criminal gains physical access to an unlocked machine, they can relatively easily steal any private or sensitive information. For example, my wife works for proton therapy at UF Health. They won't even allow anybody but a patient or a staff member to walk into that building. I've tried to go down there and have lunch with her. She's like, I can't. You can't even get into the building. So for example, they have a very high security measure on who can just even get access into there. Background checks, do a full nationwide criminal background check, sexual offender check, and if possibly a credit check on any of your employees. You can actually request this information from the FBI or FBI approved channelers. You should consider doing background checks on yourself. Many people have become aware that they are victims of identity theft after doing a background check on themselves. Individual accounts, this one I can't stress enough. This is something that we have actually been implementing into the SBDC here, and it's setting up separate accounts for each user that requires strong, unique passwords to be used for every single account. You want to try and not allow group shared accounts, correct? We want everybody to have their own one to sign in with. This can make it, if you are using shared accounts, it can make it difficult to investigate data loss or unauthorized data manipulation. Policies and procedures. So policies and procedures are used to identify acceptable practice and expectations for the business operations. This is something you should be training new employees on or even current employees on. All employees should sign a statement agreeing that they have read the policies and procedures and that they will follow them. Very important. So now let's talk about protection. So allow employees to access those systems and only specific information that they need for their job. So we don't want a marketing person having access to, the finance, information. Insiders. So insiders, employees who work with the business are the main source of security incidents. Because they already are known and trusted and have been given access to important business information systems, they can easily harm the business. Unfortunately, these types of events can be difficult to detect, so protecting against them is very important. When an employee leaves a business, you need to ensure that they no longer have access to any of your systems. So this could be collecting their business ID, deleting their username and account for all of their systems, changing any group passwords if you are using them, or combination locks that they may know, and collecting any keys that were given. And a lot of times when employees leave, even if it's on a good note, a lot of times we forget to change their passwords or that they even still have an account. So very important to ensure that you do keep up with that. Surge protectors prevent spikes or dips in power from damaging your electronic system. UPS, which is uninterruptible power supplies, provide a limited amount of battery power to allow you to work through the power outage, so you can ensure that you safely save your information. Ensure that you're patching any operating systems or applications. So any software applications, including operatings, firmware, or plugins that are installed on the system, that if they're not, they can be vulnerable to an attack. So a lot of times these companies are putting out, updates so that you can, so they can comply with, current security purposes. Install and activate software. So firewalls can be used to block unwanted traffic, such as known as malicious communications or browsing to inappropriate sites, depending on those settings. Install and operate a hardware firewall between your internal network and the internet. This may be a function of a wireless access point or router, or it may be a function of the router provided by your internet service provider to the small business itself. If you're using wireless networks, and for customers and for yourself, you're providing access to them, ensure that it's separate from your business network. Avoid connecting to unknown or unsecured guest wireless access points with your business hardware. And then access only those wireless access points that you know and trust. So if your employee must connect to an unknown network or conduct work from home, you may want to consider implementing a VPN, which is a virtual private network. So just a little bit more on protection. So set up web and email filters. Email filters can remove emails known as malware attached and prevent your inbox from being cluttered by unsolicited or undesired email. Email providers may often offer this capability if your business hosts your own email servers using filtering as possible. Similarly, many web browsers allow web filtering. notifying the user if they are on a site that may contain malware and potentially preventing them from accessing the website. So encrypting sensitive business information. So is the process of making your electronically stored information unreadable to anyone who does not have the current password or key. Dispose of old computers, and this is a big one that I've seen a lot with small businesses. So sometimes, small business may sell or throw away or donate old computers and media. When disposing of old business computers, first electronically wipe the hard drive. And after that, you should physically destroy it. And I'll say that because even though you wipe it, there is still information on there that is accessible and people can pull that information off. And you should install a remote wiping application on your computer, tablets, cell phone, and other mobile devices. So if they are lost, that you can wipe them remotely. UNF has a software called CompuTrace that they use, that so it can detect where the computer is, but if it does get lost, it can be completely wiped. And then you should train your employees. So there's 4 basic areas. So what are they allowed to use their business computer for? Such as, are they allowed to check their personal email? How are they expected to treat customer or business information? For example, are they allowed to take the computer home itself? And what to do in case of emergency or a security incident. And then just implementing those basic and best practices and continuously training them on those. So detect. So we should install and regularly update any antivirus and anti-spyware on every device that your business uses. This can include smartphones, tablets, those kinds of things. It may be useful to set the antivirus to automatically update, and you could do that daily. You may want to consider using 2 different softwares too. This can improve the chance of a virus being detected. Maintain and monitor logs. So protection and detection hardware or software often has capability of keeping a log of activity, ensuring this functionality is enabled. Logs can be used to identify suspicious activity and may be valuable in case of an investigation. Logs should be backed up and saved for at least a year. And I do highly recommend having a professional review these for you, as there could be things in there that they can pick out for you and be able to tell you if there is suspicious activity. So respond. So develop a plan for what immediate actions that you'll need to take in case of a fire, emergency, burglary, or natural disaster. And the plan should include at least this here: roles and responsibilities. So this, who makes the decision to initiate the recovery procedures, and who will be the contact with appropriate law enforcement personnel if needed. What to do with your information and information systems in case of an incident. So this includes shutting down or locking computers, moving to a backup site, physically removing important documents. And who to call in case of an incident. This should include, how and when to contact any kind of executives or emergency personnel, cybersecurity professionals, legal professionals. So who are we going to contact if this happens? Many states have notification laws. Here in the state of Florida, an entity should contact their customers if there are more than 500 people affected, and it should be within at least 30 days of the incident. Types of activities that constitute an information security incident. This should include activities such as your business website being down for more than a certain length of time, or evidence of information being stolen. You may want to consider developing procedures for each job role that describe exactly what the employee in that role will be expected to do if an incident or emergency does occur. So let's talk about recovery. So you want to conduct a full encrypted backup of data on emergency computers or mobile devices used in your business, or at least once a month. Shortly after a complete virus scan, store these backups away with your office location in a protected place so if something happens to your office, the data is safe. I've heard of some small businesses using, safes and things like that, or safety security boxes, to be able to store this securely. You can easily store these backups on removable media, such as, USB hard drives, or online using cloud service providers. If you do choose to use a cloud service provider, I highly recommend you do your due diligence on who you are picking. I'll tell you, we have a client here that we just had this conversation with. They were using Google Drive to store all their stuff, and I brought up the point, well, what happens if Google goes down or something happens to their servers where your data is stored? For example, we just saw Facebook wasn't available for a day, right? Something else may be going on there, but people couldn't get into it, right? So I always recommend, backing up your data, as it's extremely important to have it somewhere else in case it's accessible. I'll tell you, Google Drive is not very secure either. So I do recommend, having a very secure place to store your data itself. Doing incremental backups as well. So conducting an automatic incremental backup of each of your business computers on mobile devices at least once a week. This type of backup only records and changes made since the last backup. Periodically test your backup data to ensure that it is readable. I had a client that they were backing up their data and they tried to access it and they couldn't. It was corrupted. So you should definitely be testing your backups, ensuring the data is accessible in case something does happen. Cyber insurance, is something possibly to consider. It may help you respond and recover from a security incident. In some cases, cyber insurance companies will also provide cybersecurity expertise and help you identify where you are vulnerable. So maybe taking you through a very similar exercise that we saw at the beginning. What kinds of actions you need to take to protect your systems and help you investigate an incident report to the appropriate authorities. So make improvements, right? We can always improve. So regularly assess your processes, your procedures, and technology solutions according to your risks that you have. You may want to consider conducting training or tabletop exercises which simulate or run through a major event or scenario, and to identify any potential weaknesses that may be in your process. So let's talk about some tips to working safely and securely. So you should pay attention to the people you work with and around. For example, I went through a cybersecurity training through UWF and their cybersecurity center. And I'll tell you, they actually have one of the best in the world. We did a 3-part series last year, 3 different courses, and they were all a week long. And they were talking about some of the employees actually taking paper documents home that had social security numbers and things like that on them. They stole like 10,000 patients that were part of this company. So you should always be kind of paying attention to what your people are doing around you, because you never know what they may actually be taking. Be careful of email attachments and web links. I actually have a friend who just launched a website here in the Jacksonville area. He has a tattoo parlor here. He actually has 2 locations. And he received an email and sent it over to me, and it was saying that he was using like copyrighted material and just the jargon and the way that the email was written. You could tell right away that it was spam, but they were saying, click on this link now. And the link goes to some crazy web address, right? There was no other information inside of there. So we did our due diligence and didn't click on any of the links, obviously, but you got to be very careful of what you are looking at when it comes in. So if you do see links from unknown email addresses, definitely don't click on them. But sometimes what you need to do too is really look at that email address. Sometimes there could be a 1 instead of an L, right? Trying to manipulate someone that you may know's email address. Hackers have gotten very, very tricky lately. I mean, they even will stalk your social media to find out little information that they need to be able to try to get that trust in there when they email you. So you are clicking on links. So be very, very careful. Always read the email address and ensure you do, finally read it, because there could be one little piece that's changed. Use separate personal and business computers and mobile devices accounts. So try to have your personal and your business separate. Only using the software you need on the business computer. You don't want to be downloading other things to it if you can help that. Do not connect to personal or untrusted storage devices or hardware to your computer, mobile, or device. So we don't want to be connecting our computers to wireless networks that we don't really know or trust. It could easily allow them to get into your computer. Another couple of just tips here is just being careful of downloading software. You never know what may be inside of that software. There's browsers out there that you can download, to your computer, and you think you're just downloading the browser, but there's actually a lot of other things attached to it that you may just not see. So just always be careful that if you are downloading software, that you're going directly to the site itself, the company that has that software, and then that you are downloading it directly from them. Do not give out personal or business information. I think this is pretty much a given, but we don't want to be sharing passwords. We don't want to be writing passwords down and leaving them on our desk. I was at a client site the other day where he had a list of all his passwords and where they go to and this and that. And I told him, this is not safe. You can use systems. There's one that we use here at UNF called Passman, and it's just an application that's encrypted that you could store your passwords in, so that way they are safe and secure. I know iPhone, if you go into the settings, there is a passwords area there. But I'll even tell you, I was just talking to Marge Cirillo yesterday, who attended an in-person cybersecurity training before COVID hit. And the speaker came down and asked, one of the audience members for their phone. And as he walked around, within 2 minutes, he had it unlocked. So just because it's password protected, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody can't get into it, right? Or even with these, where they have the Face ID now, right? What if they use like a picture or something like that to try and unlock it? My daughter can actually unlock my wife's phone with her face, and she's 3. So, just little things that, sometimes things that we think are secure are really not. So you always want to take those extra steps here. Watch for harmful pop-ups, so making sure that we're not clicking on those. Use strong passwords. And you should be using a different password for every single system that you use. I know that we all want to use the same password across the different systems because it makes it easy, but I'll tell you, it is not secure, because if you get one, then they got all the other systems that you use, right? So, and you don't want to use things, you don't want to use like the kind of car you drive or the kind of dog you have. You want to use random words and numbers and special characters, and you should be changing them every 6 months. That's kind of the recommendation for it, as I know that's not what we all do, but it's something that we should really definitely consider if you want to keep your information secure. And just conducting online business more securely, just ensuring our plugins and things like that are up to date, and just making sure that we're just being as careful as possible when conducting business online, putting credit card numbers in, things like that. So now we're going to quickly talk about how the SBDC can help, and then we'll go into some questions. So the SBDC put out from our headquarters an awareness self-risk assessment. So what you can do is, and you'll get a copy of this PowerPoint, or I think you can drop it into the chat, your email address into the chat, and we'll email you the PowerPoint itself, so you'll have all these things. But pretty much what you do is you go in and ask you a list of questions, and it will email you the level of risk that you have. Based off, the answers that you provide throughout the survey. This is based on the National Institute of Standard and Technology cybersecurity framework. So very big cybersecurity company that, pretty much we just reviewed a lot of the framework here. You can also get no-cost consulting. So if you think you have cybersecurity issues, you can always come into us and we'll help you. Our headquarters also has a cybersecurity course. So you can click on that when you get this, and I promise you it's a safe link. And you can go to that and it takes you to our headquarters site where you can learn more about the course and see if it's something that you're interested in. We can help you create a free cyber planner. This comes from the FCC and the SBA put this together. So if you do, you can kind of put together a cybersecurity plan. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have referrals to cybersecurity companies. So, if you are looking to talk more with a cybersecurity professional and look into that, we can provide you some referrals on that. You can visit our cybersecurity page for other resources, and then also the ASBDC, which is the full one over the entire nation here, has additional resources on their site too, where you can go and learn more. So I know we covered a lot of information, but I'd be happy to answer some questions if we have some, and just see if there's any other topics you kind of want to go over a little bit. I know we got finished a little bit early, but wanted to save some time here at the end for some questions. Allie, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Taylor. What an awesome presentation. We do have a couple of questions that have rolled in. And you may have covered this, but I'll ask it again just to be on the safe side. Why do you consider Google Drive to be not very secure?
It's been found that Google Drive can be easily hacked in. So there are much more secure systems out there that you can use to better protect your information. And we can talk more offline about it too, and even provide you some recommendations of things that you may be interested in.
Awesome, thank you. And one more question. Have you had experience with LastPass for business use?
So I haven't personally used LastPass myself. I have had clients and friends that have used it, and it is a pretty secure system. I haven't heard of anybody getting their passwords or anything like that hacked. Like I mentioned, we use Passman here at the university, and it has been proven to be a good system. UNF has a very good cybersecurity team, and we actually just a couple of weeks ago won an award from the FBI for our cybersecurity. One other thing I wanted to mention too is that UNF is actually hosting a cybersecurity conference on October 18th. So you can go to the help desk's website. Visitors can join, so it's for anybody that's out there. I think there's only 120 seats, but there was a pretty good lineup. I was looking at it this morning. As far as small businesses go, there was a one or two sessions that were based around business itself and security purposes.
Awesome, thank you. And also I wanted to make a note. There's Taylor's contact information on your screen right now, but if anybody is interested in receiving this PowerPoint, correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor, today's presentation with all the links and stuff that he's gone over, just type it into the question section, just type in your email and we'll be sure to send it to you. And if there's any more in-depth type of questions that you have, then of course, following up with Taylor for a one-on-one appointment is also an option for you, a no-cost appointment.
Yep. And I appreciate everybody and their attendance here. Like I said, I know we covered a lot. You do have access to the framework. I did drop some links in there where you can download the full framework and the exercise sheets that we had kind of reviewed. So some really good information in there that that you can really get more in depth on. Today, I just want to kind of go over the fundamentals without blowing it out the water. So.
Yeah, certainly that could be, there's a whole conference for cybersecurity. So just a 1-hour webinar is really just scratching the surface of possibilities. So we didn't want to overwhelm anybody, but follow-up options are definitely out there for you to get in touch with us. With that, Taylor, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in.
I think we're good.
Like I mentioned at the top of the hour, please everybody be on the lookout for the email that will be sent out in about an hour, and then also the event survey. Please let us know your thoughts. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and sign off. So Taylor, thank you for an excellent presentation. We hope we didn't overwhelm anybody. Great job.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and hope you have a great Friday and weekend.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, guys.